Archaeologists have uncovered the 14th-century castle Oud Haarlem near of the Dutch town of Heemskerk. A lost castle destroyed after an extraordinary massacre has been uncovered by stunned archaeologists. The remarkable find was made in a field outside the Dutch town of Heemskerk in what's been called a titanic moment. The site, known as Castle Oud Haarlem, stood for only 100 years before its destruction in 1351 and was the site of a grisly bloodbath. When enemies invaded the castle's master fled, leaving behind staff to face a massacre. After it was destroyed, the set of ruins enshrouded with a dark history went undisturbed for hundreds of years until now. Archaeologists found the building's remains close to the site of a smaller castle that was unearthed back in the 1960s. Back then, archaeologists could see that the smaller castle occupied just one corner of a large square, marked out by ramparts and moats. When they searched the rest of the square, however, they found nothing, and the empty space has remained a mystery ever since. But now, using modern technology, a team of archaeologists has found a second, larger castle within the ramparts. "We couldn't believe our luck when discovering this castle," said team member Nancy de Jong Lamberts. "One of our team described it as a titanic moment, that moment when you saw the first glimpse of the Titanic as it appeared out of the dark. It was a quite similar feeling when we first saw the footprint of the castle emerging on the screen." Mrs. de Jong said Castle Oud Haarlem was like a time capsule because the fortress stood for only 100 years before its destruction in 1351 during the Hook and Cod Wars. "The battles were fought over the title of Count of Holland," she said. "When the enemy approached, the owner of the castle fled, leaving behind his loyal staff waiting for his return. They faced the enemy and an extraordinary mass. Stories say that there are mass graves present on the site and that the doomed souls of those who died there were the reason that the castle site was never redeveloped. Right after the destruction of the castle, they cleared most of the remains. What was left was a hilly meadowland for the past 600 years. The outline of the castle was revealed using a combination of magnetometry and electromagnetic induction, EMI. These techniques can be done without excavating, with the former revealing metal objects, while the latter reveals buried ruins by running an electric current through the earth to measure resistance. Archaeologists suspect that the two castles would have functioned as one complex. This means the ruins found in the 1960s were the inner castle where the lord and his family would have lived, while the newly found ruins are the outer castle, a buffer castle where there would have been stables, craftsmen and servants. The find is particularly significant because it's now the oldest square castle in the Netherlands. Mrs. de Jong said. "Finding a new unknown castle is very exciting, but finding an early square castle is extra exciting. Measuring 45 meters by 45 meters means it's quite large for those days. Until recently, Dutch archaeologists assumed that the square castles only occurred after 1280. This newly discovered square castle dates from 1250. This would push back the mainstream archaeological timeframe by 3 decades and makes it the oldest square, tower castle type in the Netherlands. It also would have been the most modern castle in the Netherlands in those days." So far, the team has only probed 60% of the fortified square using EMI, which means there could be more discoveries on the cards. "The best is yet to come," said Mrs. de Jong.